Hi everyone, Ashish this side back again. In this video, we are going to talk about DeepSeek 3.2. We'll discuss different component of it in terms of architectures, in terms of general use, in terms of the breakthroughs, what it is doing new in a very layman term. Let's talk about it. So first of all, it is released in 1st December 2025 and it is one of the most prominent open weight model because this is an open source model that we have, but not as open source as any one of us can use it in our regular devices because it's a heavyweight model. So talking about all the different variations of DeepSeek, from DeepSeek 3 to 3.1 to 3.2, all of them has changed the shift of how they are processing the attention mechanism, how they are utilizing the attention mechanism. And they have introduced something called as DSA, which is DeepSeek Sparse Attention. And this is an architecture that will help you reduce the computation cost by fractions, literally fractions, when talking about large contexts. So talking about earlier models, they are using quadratic complexity. For example, if I'm talking about this is a car, so to perform attention mechanism on it, this is a car, we need to go for all the possible combination of all the words to see which one has how much importance in whichsoever other word. It seems fine. For example, if I have 4 words, so I'll have 4 into 4, that is 16 possible outputs. So which is 4 to the square. This is quadratic. The issue is when I'm increasing the context. So for example, if I'm talking about this is a car. So by performing a regular attention mechanism on it, it will basically go for all the combination of words that are possible. If the word is 4 and right now I'm talking about one word as one token, usually it's not like that. One word is 1.25 tokens if talking about a very large context, but let's take for simplicity that we have 4 words. So possible whenever performing attention mechanism, so it will go for a quadratic complexity, 4 to the square. So it will go for 16 different combination. It's smooth for simple use cases. But the issue is when the context increased, for example, from 4 words, if it increased to 100 words, so now you know because of quadratic, the complexity is around 10,000. And in the case of 100,000, which is the context length that we can easily have in long chats, it will go for millions of computation. That's one of the main problem with basic attention mechanism. So they have used something called as lightning index, which will rather than going for all the combination, it will find the important components and pass only those components in the next phase where the attention and basically top K can be selected. This will reduce the complexity by many folds. And this is why the model is computationally really less expensive rather than other models. And this is one of the main reasons as well why just being 670 around billion parameter model is still beating the state of the art models. And it's also a mixture of expert model where basically we are simulating multiple experts to give the answer. So rather than having one expert giving the answer, we have different experts for different use cases which will give the answer. But that's something that's done virtually. We are not adding what I would say experts manually. So these are two of the main breakthroughs of this mechanism: lightning index and DeepSeek Sparse Attention. So they have released the models in different variations. For example, we have DeepSeek 3.2 chat model, which is basically can be replaced with the traditional models like GPT-5 and other, that is for basic chats. And they have also provided, you can also access it through the chat, DeepSeek chat, or also through the APIs. On top of that, we have DeepSeek 3.2 Spatial, which is basically going to not replace, but act alongside with your GPT where you need, or Gemini where you need some research level things. So this is something that will go along with that. And using the mixture of expert system, though being 670 billion plus parameter model, only active parameters whenever giving any token into the input is just 37 billion parameters. So it's 20 times lesser active parameters when giving any token as an input. This is very complex architecture of mixture of expert model, but as you can see, the active models are very less. So very less computation, active parameters are very less, So that's why a very less computations are happening, and this is why this model is also really very fast. And that's also one of the main reasons why this model is computationally really very expensive as compared to other state-of-the-art models. It also provides thinking capability to the model that we already have in some of other models as well. But irrespective of some of the closed source models that don't showcase their thinking, what's happening under the hood when the model is thinking, this model on the other hand can return you the thinking of the model as well. Whenever giving a query and accessing the output through the APIs or through the chats, you can see what your model is thinking under the hood and also give you the exact output. On top of that, it will also provide you thinking in tool use. Basically, whenever the model is doing any tool calls, while doing the tool calls as well, the model will think. That's also a special capability that this model has. And these are some of the benchmarks that you might have already seen as well. Like, it is outperforming a lot of other models, or if not outperforming, it's competing very greatly with all of the other models that are also state-of-the-art model like GPT, Gemini, Claude, and the earlier thinking models of the same variant of DeepSeek 3.2. And that too not only on the reasoning capability but also on agenting capabilities. And talking about the operational cost, here in this chart you can easily see, if I'm talking about the pricing aspects of it, comparing DeepSeek, Gemini, Claude and GPT, talking about the best models, so here you can see Claude is $15 of output tokens, but here DeepSeek is sitting at 0.42. It's basically 20 to 30 times less money it's going to take. Get to the same result, same number of tokens. Not only in terms of output, but also in terms of input, cache it and cache miss. Without caching and with caching, here you can see we have a totally new shift where the cost is from 2 times to here you can see up to 30 times, 300 times less than the earlier ones. That's a totally new thing. And because of that, sometime, for example, when we have a lot of context, when the chat is extending a lot, or we have a very long chat, in that particular case, we can also go for a RAG based or caching based system. But here, if the caching is very less, if the amount is very less, it's very easy for developers to go for DeepSeek kind of models where the caching cost a lot less as compared to other models. As you can see by comparing from Gemini 3.0 Pro, even 5.1, it costs around 1/3 of it. Means not even 1/3, 1/4, 1/5 of it. Talking about the training time of it, as they have revealed in their paper, it cost around 14.8 trillion tokens has passed through the model, and using 2.788 million H800 GPU hours, which is equivalent to 308 years if we are training on one H800, but usually they use cluster of GPUs, or mostly they use cluster of GPUs, otherwise it will take decades to train a model. And if talking about $2 per hour, so usually it's a rough understanding that it might cost to train this model around 5.5 million USD, that too to train this model. But talking about the other state-of-the-art models, they cost more than 100 million. So in terms of training the model, the cost is very less. In terms of inference as well, whenever we are inferencing the model, either talking about the input token, output token, cache it, all of them are very less computationally, and in terms of financially as well, talking about the cost of the tokens is very less. Why? Because of DeepSeek's sparse attention and lighting index. These are the main 2 components, and along with that they have added like the mixture of expert model as well, which will, during the time of an inference, the cost is very less because very less number of parameters, like almost 1/20th of the parameters are active. So there is a lot happening in the model, and this is all of the things combined will have a state-of-the-art model that's not, even if it is not beating all these models, not as good, but talking economical about that model, this is something that is democratizing all these things. Talking about the local inference, these models cannot be used in our own system, in local hardwares, but because the model size is 670 billion parameters, so usually it will take around 1.3 TB of virtual RAM. So that's not something that we can take, because even if I'm talking about here they have mentioned as well equivalent to 16 NVIDIA H100 of 80 GB each you will need. And even if one costs $2, $3, $4, like it's around $50, $50 to $60 per hour. Okay, so that's a lot of money that we need to feed in to get inference of this model, but that's something that we cannot use if I'm talking about the same model. If I'm performing some kind of quantization on it by going for lesser precision, so in that case as well it will need 350 to 400 GB, that again we cannot use on our system. But you can get the same thing through the third-party companies where they are hosting it, and through APIs you can easily access it. Like you can directly access it through the DeepSeek servers as well. So in conclusion, they have made a breakthrough undoubtedly, not in terms of beating, but in terms of competing to the state of the art models at very less cost, in terms of training the model, but also in terms of getting inference from the model. Giving the input tokens, the cost is very less. For output token, the cost is very less. And on top of that, it's also about the cache-in. So all these things combined together will make this a breakthrough undoubtedly. So that's it about this model. If you still have any doubt, any question, make sure to share it in the chat. Give me your thoughts about it, because also in some sort of controversy, because obviously this is the model that's coming from China, so the controversy will happen. But that's what we have basically. If you still have any doubt, any question, do let us know. I'll be more than happy to answer queries. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.